In this episode, we're doing a little bit of chainsaw milling, slicing up some slabs using an Alaskan chainsaw mill. Just a heads up, it's going to look like we're jumping through time because this project spanned several days, and well, now while I'm wrapping it up, it's currently snowing. It's going to be a fun one. Make sure you stick around. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Home Built Workshop. I hope you're doing awesome today. Today's going to be a fun day. I hope you're as excited as I am about what we're about to tackle. If you guessed that because there's a chainsaw on the workbench that we need to cut some wood, you'd be correct. But today we're not cutting firewood. We're going to pair this chainsaw with my Alaskan chainsaw mill and do a little bit of slab milling. Now, if you scroll back on the channel, I do have a few videos of me milling with this saw and my Alaskan chainsaw mill, but there's been quite a few new people to the channel, and a few of them have expressed some interest in seeing some lumber being milled up. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I've got a couple different logs here that I need to mill up. One is this smaller one, and another one, this giant one over here, is one that I started in an earlier video. I started milling on it, hit a nail, and never really got back to it. So today, we're going to get these things both sliced up. So let's take a quick look at the saw first. I'll show you what I'm working with, and then we'll start getting the mill set up, getting everything ready to start making some cuts. The power head I'm using is this Husqvarna 372 XP. This is a 71cc saw, hasn't been modified, it's 100% bone stock. This is, as you can tell, the high cap model. It's my understanding that there's both this high cap and then there's a lower cap version that I believe is available overseas. I'm not really sure what other differences there are, but this is the US model. This is a great saw. Made it up to the power head. I have this 42-inch bar, and I also have a dedicated ripping chain installed. This is made specifically for those long rips that we're going to be doing while we're milling up the lumber. As I mentioned, this saw is completely bone stock. I've not done any modifications to it. It seems to run this size bar pretty well, although if I get too aggressive once we start cutting through the log, I can bog it down. So I just kind of have to keep that in my mind. Maybe one day we'll open this up and do some modifications. I'd like to learn how to do maybe some porting or do a muffler mod or something like that. Who knows? But for now, bone stock, it runs great. To help guide the saw while we're cutting, I'm using this Alaskan chainsaw mill. This is a Granberg 48-inch Alaskan mill. The bar is only 42, but this is very adjustable to fit different size bars. So I've just got it adjusted in a little bit to work with this 42-inch bar. Now that you know the equipment that we're working with, I guess we can start setting up our logs for our first cut. I'll put a few links in the video description to some earlier videos where I've used this combination in case you want a little bit more information, or maybe just check out some of the older videos that I've done. Let's go set up for this first cut. I'm going to start out with this larger log. This one's going to be a little bit of a challenge because as I look at the ends, you can see how far the center of the tree is down toward the bottom on this side. If we come around to the other side, it's not quite as far down. Getting your first cut nice and flat is pretty important when using a chainsaw mill because the mill rides along that flat surface. In this case, the log is definitely not flat, so I'm going to use these guide rails to help guide the first cut. I want this first cut to be as straight as I can get it through the grain of the wood, so I'm going to measure roughly from the center of this log to the top of the rails, and I want that distance to be almost identical. So this side of the log is about 7 inches off from the center of the tree. So in order to have the best results, I need to lift this up so that my first cut's fairly straight. Now I know this looks kind of wonky, but really it's mainly because of the shape of this log. We just need to get a nice straight cut all the way across, and once we have that, I won't need to use these guide rails. The mill will run right on that top surface. We'll just lock everything in place, and hopefully it stays long enough to get that first cut. We're ready to load the saw into the mill. I'm sure you can probably tell it's really showing up good in the sunlight, but you can see the figure in the outside of this wood. This is what made me want to get this log, even though it's been sitting around for quite a while. I think this is going to be awesome. Now it's time to load the chainsaw into the mill. This just slips in between a couple of posts that lock down on the bar of the saw. With the mill secured to the saw, it's time to fire this thing up. To make the first cut, the mill rides along the guide bars. You'll notice here that I've added a ratchet strap to kind of hold things in place. This first cut isn't going to go all the way across, so I don't have to worry about cutting the ratchet strap. Not that I've ever done that before or anything. Because of the shape of this log, I know that it's going to take me a couple of slices to get it evened out so that I'm cutting straight across. I'll just reposition the guide rails and re-level it to the log. And after adjusting the depth of cut on the mill, I'll make another pass. Now I ran into a little bit of trouble on this second pass. I should have put the ratchet strap back in place to kind of hold the rails. As the saw is running, it kind of vibrates and it wants to shake the rails around. Even though there's some little dogs on there that are supposed to hold the thing in place, it does tend to move around a little bit. That's why I used the ratchet strap. I did end up stopping mid-cut and secured the rails with the strap. It's just a lot less stressful if you don't have to worry about those rails wiggling around. Once I got close to where the ratchet strap was, I just stopped, pull the strap off. I'm almost through the log at this point, so I'm just gonna wing it and hope the rails stay in place. There's our first actual flat cut. Let's see what we have here. Let's do a little water pour and see what it looks like. See if we can tell anything. Yeah, there's definitely some figure in there. Oh yeah. That's cool. I guess we just need to readjust our depth of cut and make another slice. Once the first slab is cut, all the rest really kind of looks the same. It's just a matter of setting the saw to whatever depth I want to cut and then making the cut. On the first cuts where the log is a little bit narrower, I'm making those about 1 inch thick. I'll be able to use these for some smaller boards, but once the slab gets wider, I'm going to increase the thickness of the cut to about 2 inch to 2 1/4 of an inch thick. As you're seeing me pick this contraption up, if you're thinking, man, that chain is mighty close to your leg, first off, I just want to let you know that I am wearing protective chainsaw chaps. I always do that because, well, I know things can happen, and that's an awfully big bar to be swinging around that close to your body. Another thing I do is that whenever the bar is not in the wood and I'm going to be lifting this thing up, I always make sure to have the chain brake enabled so that it can't accidentally spin if I were to bump the trigger or something. And right here, as I'm pulling the saw out of this cut, you can kind of see me engage the chain brake with my leg before I lift this up and carry it around. Now, like most projects, this project wasn't completed in one day, and the weather here where I live can change in an instant. You never know really day to day what it's going to be. When I started milling this log, I'm wearing a t-shirt. The next day, we had some snow on the ground, a little taste of winter. For a project like this, I don't mind one bit being outside, even if it is only 14 degrees. There's something about the smell of a two-stroke engine, pre-mixed gas, with snow on the ground that I really kind of enjoy. One thing that I feel is kind of important after making a cut is to not shut the saw off right away. I think that it needs a little bit of time to idle and cool down. I just think overall it's a little better for the saw. I am really liking the look of some of the wood in this log. Yes, there are some cracks on the outside where I will lose a little bit of material, but deep down inside, the wood looks super cool. Here's a sample of one of those boards that I quickly ran through the drum sander, wiped it down with some mineral spirits just to get an idea of what this figure's gonna look like. And that looks pretty awesome to me. Whew. At least we got a comfy place to sit now. Well, guys, I think that's going to be a wrap for this episode anyway. The saw chain is duller than this board right now, and I don't have any more new ones to swap on there, so looks like I've got a bit of sharpening time ahead of me. It takes quite a while to sharpen a chain. This one is, I believe it's 135 links to make up the entire loop. I don't know how many cutters that is exactly, but it's quite a lot, and it takes quite a bit of time to get these things sharpened. So that's what I'm gonna be doing for the next few hours. I hope this gives you a bit of an overview at least of kind of how I slab these logs up using an Alaskan chainsaw mill. Maybe one day a bandsaw mill is in our future. I don't know, we'll see about that. Sure would be fun and a lot quicker than this, but there's something about cutting wood on a cold and snowy day. Thanks a lot for watching. Hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Also, consider subscribing to the channel. I've got lots of other projects on the channel, some of which you're gonna find in some links right here. Oh, and over here too, probably. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Maybe I'll just take a nap. We can't be taking a nap. I got sharpening to do. Let's get after it.